Good morning. What an introduction. My goodness. I sent him this whole long bio and he didn't read any of it. So thank you all for coming. Thanks to Creative Mornings for having me. Thank you to Vizcaya for hosting. I'm so excited that you are all here. Thank you so much for getting up early. I personally am not fit for human interaction anytime before 11 a.m. So this is going to be very interesting, and I'm very impressed by you all being here. So I'm really excited that they asked me to come here and talk about love. Love is one of my favorite topics. Why is that? Well, love is a universal language. Everybody in this room and beyond has a relationship with love in some way, shape, or form. It's one of Maslow's human needs, basic needs. Everybody needs it. Those who don't have it want it. Those who have it want more of it, right? And love is also as varied as it is universal. Even just looking at some of your responses from the icebreaker question, what I love most is. Who wants to share one of their answers? What I love most is traveling. Lovely. What I love most is being alive. That's pretty good. It's kind of the foundation for everything. Yes. Laughing. Amazing. So what love today, when I talk about love, I'm not talking about romantic love. I am talking about every single form of love there is. Love of life, love of travel, love of career, love of purpose, love of self, which is really, really important. And it can also include romantic love. But I want to define that first before we get started. So also what I really want to do today is I want to bring love down to the ground. I think we tend to believe that love is this mysterious, elusive concept, that it's very complex and complicated. Susan Sontag, the writer, actually wrote, "Nothing is mysterious, no human relation except love." So what I want to do today is I want to reframe love for you in a way that is grounded, in a way that is tangible, in a way that you can really interact with it and so that you know what the experience can really be like. So let's think about love today as a physical place, right? A place you could actually drop a pin on Google Maps and drive or fly or bike to. So if we think about love as a physical place, what does it look like? Now I'm going to call it your nation state of love. Your nation state of love is unique to you and totally customized. And so ask yourself, what does this nation state feel like? What's the landscape? Okay? What types of people live there with you? Is it a place you find enjoyable? Would you want to live there? What's the currency? In other words, what's the value system in your nation state of love? Now, when you're asking yourself these questions and defining your place of love, this is a sacred place. This is yours, okay? You have to get really honest with these questions and these answers. Doesn't matter what your parents think your nation state should look like. Doesn't matter what society tells you the currency should be. Doesn't matter what old stories you've told yourself about who is there, what types of people are there, what are the feelings that you are experiencing when you're in your nation state of love, right? So now what we've done is we have identified where love is. If it's a physical place, you've started to identify where love actually is. So the next question that comes to mind is, are you currently living in your nation state of love, right? Are you in it? Are you circling the gates? Do you need to take 6 flights, 2 puddle jumpers, a rickshaw, and a ferry to get to your nation state of love, right? Because what ends up happening is once you define a point, a physical location, ultimately what you're going to start doing is deciding where in relation to that physical location are you. So where are you currently living? And what ends up happening when we start to think of love as a physical place is there starts to be a roadmap of sorts between where you are and where you want to be. If love is a basic human need and it's a physical place, you should be living in love. You probably won't be able to do it 100% of the time, but I like to say at least 80% of the time is what you should be shooting for. So, if you're not currently living in your nation state of love, where are you living, right? What you can do is you start to evaluate your current life situation against your nation state of love, this ideal that you have in your mind. Who are the people that are in your life? Do they look and sound and feel and treat you the same way that these ideal people in your nation state of love do? Is the value system the same? Are you trading in the same currency that you would like to be trading in? Love, respect, whatever. So you start to figure out, well, if that's point B, and I don't currently live there, and I'm currently in point A, And where is that, and what does that feel like? So you start to develop a relationship between where you are and where you want to be, and eventually what's going to happen, and I'll talk through this, is you're going to figure out a way how to get to where you want to be. So the next question that you have to ask yourself is, do you really want to go there, right? Do you really want to live in your nation state of love? Seems like an easy question, but another way to ask yourself the same question is, if you're in point A, are you willing to leave, right? This is where things get tricky. When people talk about, I want to find love, or I want to have the perfect career, or I want to have a great family life, or a life that I love, if your nation state's all the way over there and you're here, are you willing to leave? This is where resistance comes up, because leaving requires saying goodbye. Leaving requires sometimes forgiveness. Leaving requires getting outside of your comfort zone. You could have been living in point A most of your life, not really believing that there's a point B, not really believing that you have a nation state of love to move to, right? So there's a lot of friction, there's a lot of resistance that comes up. So are you willing to leave? What else do you need on a road trip? Well, you need gas. You need fuel to get there, right? And in this instance, the fuel to get to your nation state of love is desire. And I choose desire, the verb, not desire, the noun, the desire to get to your nation state of love. Some people might insert passion in this instance. I choose desire because desire, the verb, implies that there must be an action that is taken afterwards. I desire to change. I desire to move to my nation state of love. I desire to be somewhere different than I currently am. And so that is what fuels you, because it's not always an easy journey to your nation state of love. It's not always short. You don't always know exactly what it looks like or where it's going to take you. But that desire stays with you. And even when you arrive at your nation state of love, the desire to stay there, that basic human need, keeps you there. It is your little nucleus around which you center yourself. And if you find yourself ever out of your nation state of love again, it'll bring you back in, right? Passion can wither and die. It can, once you've accomplished something, it can fizzle out. But that desire is a core part of you. It's never going to go away. What else do you need to bring? Well, it would be really great if we had directions, right? If we just had like a Google map, turn left here, go past the second star and go straight on till morning, right? That'd be fabulous. Then we'd have no uncertainty, no fear, no doubt about where we were going or where we're going to end up. Well, now that you already know where you are, you have a good idea of where you're going, or you know where you are and you know where you want to go. You have a good idea of what that looks like. You know what that final destination, that dream destination looks like. So when you're on your road, or your 6 flights and your 2 rickshaws and a ferry to your nation state of love, what ends up happening is life is going to throw you opportunities, right? And you have to decide whether or not you should engage in those opportunities. Well, you do have a little internal compass. It's your intuition, right? And everybody has a different relationship with their intuition. Some people have a very good, strong relationship. They've exercised that intuitive muscle a lot. Some people wouldn't even know it if it hit it upside their head. What usually happens, the reason why we do not listen to our intuition, is because our mind either confirms or denies the information that our intuition gives us. Our mind's the rational organ, right? It wants the information, it wants facts, it wants hard data, it wants to know things, it wants certainty. Your intuition makes decisions and knows things without those hard data and without those facts. But now that you have a map, now that you know what your final destination is and where you are going, you can now measure every single opportunity that comes into your life against your nation state of love. So as you're going down the road, an opportunity comes in from the left, almost T-bones you, and you look at it, and your intuition is feeding you information about whether or not it's the right choice for you, and you look at it and you say, well, let's say that your nation state of love is a career nation state of love, and it's a new job opportunity. Well, do they have the same value system that I want in my career nation state of love? Is my boss or my potential fellow employees or coworkers, do they treat me, or will I be able to have a certain type of relationship with them that I would like to see in my nation state of career love, right? And so you can now confirm, or what you'll end up doing is you'll always confirm what your intuition is telling you. Either it's telling you no, and you just let it go and you keep going, or it's telling you yes and you accept and you keep going. Now, if your intuition is telling you no, And your mind chooses to say yes to it anyway because you don't have that standard against which to measure this opportunity. What ends up happening is you take a hard left and you go on a detour. And you could reroute later, but you will spend some time on that detour. Now, what else do you need? You need to bring luggage, right? When you are traveling to your nation state of love, you need to pack lightly and appropriately. Luggage comes in the form of positive and negative emotions. On the positive end, it's belief in your nation state of love. It is trust in yourself. It is confidence. It is self-esteem. It is all the positive things that are going to help you propel you forward. The negative side is old patterns, fears, doubt, self-doubt, disbelief, distrust, right? So when you're packing for your nation state of love, you need to be very mindful of what you're packing. And you do not need to bring skis to the beach. Meaning, if you know what your nation state of love requires, right, what the landscape is, what you're doing there, who you're going to be involved with, who you're going to be talking to and sharing your life with, you know what you need to pack. You probably don't need that fear. You probably don't need that self-doubt, right? You probably don't need some of those old patterns. So last weekend I was reading an article from Harvard Business Review, and it was about, I want to read you a little excerpt, because it was about how managers can apply the right amount of pressure to their team to create action and have them perform better. Here's what it says. In its most positive form, stress results when an employee tries to do the same old things in a new environment. Those out-of-date behaviors produce subpar results, and the growing gap in performance creates tension. It's exactly the kind of stress you want, because it counteracts the powerful inertia of habit. So, I thought this was very appropriate, given our talk today. Same old things in a new environment. That would be the luggage. That would be you bringing skis to the beach, right? You don't need to pack that stuff. The growing gap in performance is the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Your point A and your point B being your nation state of love. The powerful inertia of habit is that resistance we feel when we ask ourselves, do we want to leave where we currently are? Are we willing to go to our nation state of love? And the stress is the awareness you now have, or maybe have already had, that you are not where you want to be, and you have a desire to get there and a desire to change your current state. So, if you're concerned that you might have to travel 6 flights, 4 rickshaws, a ferry, and a puddle jumper, don't worry about it, because the most important part is that you have awareness between where you are and where you want to be, your point A and your nation state of love. So if you reframe love as a physical place on a map, it becomes way less mysterious, becomes way less elusive, and it's not so complicated. It's actually pretty straightforward. And I hope now you have a better idea of how to find love. Thank you.
So we have time for some Q&A if anyone has a question. Julia has the answer.
Do you think of any experience in your life where you noticed, you were able to see in hindsight that you took that detour and were able to kind of...
Oh yeah, girl, I've been detouring all my life. Yeah, actually it's been until recently that I finally got on my real career, got to my career nation state of love. Now, people will tell you that every detour you have, you're going to learn a lesson, and that's absolutely true. What I am saying is that you can actually stay on the path by making sure that your head and your heart are always on the same page. But yeah, I avoided my career nation state of love for probably almost my entire career until recently, thinking that what did I have to say? Who was I? You know, would anybody even listen to anything that I was going to say, or I shouldn't? I just founded a fashion company in January. I used to draw, I used to sketch stuff when I was a kid, but why would I want to be a fashion designer? Why would I want to have a fashion business? It's so competitive. You're not going to be successful. All that type of inner chatter that happens. And eventually what happened was I was so hyper aware of the distance between where I was and where I wanted to be in my career that it was uncomfortable. It was miserably uncomfortable. And it's that stress that we're talking about that kickstarted me into making the change and doing something radical and finally saying, yeah, I need to get up out of here. Like, I need to go to my on the way. And so, yeah, absolutely.
I'm wondering if there are more than one state of flux, or what happens when you do get there? Like, what is there more after that? Should you have another one?
So I'm glad you asked that question because you can have multiple ones. I mean, it depends on, it's all the types of love that are out there. So you can work on relationship, your love life, getting to your love nation, your romantic love nation state. You can work on career. Usually what ends up happening is there are some life themes and some patterns that you exhibit that correlate to all areas, all these different types of nation states. So when you start to move towards one, inevitably what happens is you are bringing the others closer to you as well. I personally can only work on one at a time because it is a lot of work. There's a lot of emotional upheaval that goes into it. Like I said, it's not easy, but there's definitely a way to do it. And what's really cool is that when you arrive, there's always more to do, right? There's always more friendships, more people coming into your life, more opportunity, more career opportunity. To continue to spread the love that you have and that you found out into the world. So that'll start to, at least for me, that was my focus. Once you have it, you can't give what you don't have. So once you have it, you can start to actually spread it out into the world and activate it in life. So there's always more to do. And I think most of us do. And I always thought it was going to be a physical place. I moved around a lot. I grew up with this sense of trying to find home always. And I thought home was in a physical place. Thought it was in Chicago, thought it was in San Francisco, not in San Francisco, thought it was LA, San Diego, now Miami, and who knows where I'm going next. But what happened is I realized that my life what happens is that the place starts to come to you in a cool way. Once you're actually on that path, the closer you get to it, the closer it starts to get to you too. And I really like making things kind of like concrete and bringing them down to the ground. I like to stay grounded. So that was kind of my inspiration behind looking at it from that standpoint. But we always talk about life as a journey. Well, if life is a journey, where are we going? I'm not so sure everybody always knows where they're going, and I hear that a lot. And so that's kind of what I was thinking about. I was like, well, in my dream version, in my movie version of my life, I feel like I'm somewhere else, right? I feel like I'm in a place. I feel like I've been dropped down into a movie scene. So kind of like Google Maps drops the pin on the map. So it was kind of a little bit of that. Yeah, it is a lifelong practice. There's no joke about that. I was thinking about this last night. Does your nation state ever change, right? Does it evolve into something? And for me, mine never changed. I am living in some of my nation states of love right now, and that dream that that movie reel that I always play is still the same. And I think when you start to ask yourself the questions about what does my nation state feel like, who are the types of people that are there, et cetera, what you're really doing is you're calling up emotional needs, things that you absolutely have to have in order to feel fulfilled in your life. That's a constant. You can have a lot of them. When I work with my clients, I actually whittle it down to 5 because really that's all you need. So if you're creating this place and creating this ideal state from those needs are constant. And if those needs are met, you'll be able to find and create this nation state that is what you want. Other things can fluctuate, but those 5 core, it always comes down to a core. And if we really get quiet with ourselves and ask ourselves, like, what do we really want in this life, you'll be able to whittle those down to emotions and feelings that you always want to feel in your life. So those usually don't fluctuate. It's actually a co-creation of both. He was asking, so if the mind needs facts, How do you create this nation state of love? Is it the intuition and the mind that's creating it together? Is it the mind that's creating it, or is it just intuition? And it's a co-creation. It's absolutely a co-creation, because you're one person, and your mind and your heart aren't separate entities outside of yourself and your personality and your life. So together, they are creating this nation state. It goes back to your core needs, which is something that you'll know in your heart, but by living after a certain amount of time, your mind also knows that when you're happier, you perform better at work, you have better relationships, you feel more fulfilled, all those types of things. So when your mind is creating this, it is from using inspiration from your intuition, from your heart. If you want to get very spiritual, metaphysical, I would say it's probably more like a soul essence, which is a combination of the two. So you definitely don't want to overthink it. I don't know if it's going in and out. It'll just kind of come to you. It's a very comfortable place. It's a place you feel safe. It's a place that allows you to be as big as you were brought here to be, and feel supported. All those types of kind of positive emotions, but so that your mind can also understand and relax into that as well. Does that make sense? Balance, the old balance question. Yeah, this never goes away. So all of these desires that you have stem from one place. So if you have a set of core desired feelings, you're going to want that in your career. You're going to want that in your romantic relationships. You'll want that in family, friends, money, etc. So there are, I don't know if I want to quantify it in terms of how many, but it's not I don't think it's an infinite number. Just because we tend to break up life into certain sections: finances, family, health, wellness, career, etc. Since they all come from the same place, and this nation state, the constitution of your nation states all comes from the same place, you have to move through the same emotional blocks as you get to one that you would have to in order to get to the other. So for instance, relationships. Usually when people come to me to talk about this, they've come because it's a romantic relationship. That's usually the easiest one for people to kind of grab onto and say, okay, I'm not getting the dates that I want, I'm in a relationship, but I'm not feeling fulfilled, et cetera, et cetera. So then you start to evaluate, well, where am I versus where I want to be in this relationship? And you start to identify, well, I want to feel more respected. I want to feel heard. I want passion for this relationship. And if you start to evaluate some of your other nation states, some other factors and areas of your life, you will find that maybe you don't feel so respected by your boss. Maybe you don't feel heard, or you don't feel like you have a voice at work. And it definitely goes into your family as well. Maybe you were, the youngest child and nobody ever listened to you. And still don't to this day. So it's those kind of things. So that's why I say once you start to work on one, the others kind of start to fall in line a little bit. And then each one presents its own opportunity to kind of up level and to get closer and closer to each nation state. Does that make sense?
It does, but then why don't we just do one?
You could do one main life goal.
Yeah.
You could. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I like to compartmentalize. If I was trying to up leveling at all things all the time, I would spontaneously combust. So it's a lot of work. And so by focusing on one, you can actually get deeper in the work. It's like working out a muscle. If you're like running around just doing surface level workouts on every muscle group, you may not see real definition or real change in your body. If you go deep and you tear that muscle and you rebuild it, you tear that muscle and you rebuild it, you're going to have a totally different shape. Well, if it is a pattern, that's actually a pretty good indication that you should probably run in the other direction. If the opportunity feels like all the other opportunities that have presented themselves, it's probably falling into the same pattern, and it's the universe's way of saying, hey, listen, hello, this is a pattern, we need to do something differently. Now, once you start to exercise that intuitive muscle, because what happens is your intuition feeds the information immediately. It's like as soon as you get that email, or as soon as you get that text or that phone call, if it's a job opportunity, say, hey, we have this here, you get this tiny little ping, right?